What's up, guys? Welcome back to Gabe and Miller Music. Today, we're going to take a look at my latest track. This one is a progressive house track called Souls, and this is actually it didn't start this way, but it ended up as a remix of my song SOS. So kind of a self-remix here. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually the arrangement, which I think is probably the most important thing about the song, actually. The genre is progressive house. So those of you unfamiliar with the genre, progressive house, as opposed to a normal song structure, which is like intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro, that kind of thing that you're used to. This is very much more starts at a point, and then it's almost like the track tells a story in a way. It builds up slowly to kind of a climax and then winds down again. So I did this by you can tell these blocks right here, you can tell that's where the drops are. This one being the intro, this being the first drop, second drop, and then the third final drop. These kind of blank spaces in between, because this is all like the percussion and kick drums and whatnot. So in between the percussion, these are the breakdown sections. And so what I did was I started with an intro to kind of give you a little taste of what it's going to be like, what the tracks are going to be like. Mostly drums, kind of start with a high pass kick, which I'll go into in a little bit. So the drums come up like this, and then a long breakdown, which then builds up to the first drop, and the drop over time builds up both energy, kind of slowly adding in elements, and then there's like automation and whatnot going on as well. So it just kind of slowly builds up, and then breaks down again, and then builds up some more to a higher point than this was, and then break down one more time, and then this starts at an even higher point, at a very high energy point, and then winds back down at the end. And to do this arrangement, normally what people do when producing genres like progressive house is they'll do just an 8-bar loop, and then from there map out the arrangement. I did it differently, where I actually started with this intro and just kind of felt my way through the whole track. And I didn't aim to make it as long as it did. I probably am not going to make too many songs like this that are this darn long, but this one ended up being like 7 minutes just because it felt right to me. So I'll start out showing you what I did in terms of elements that I added, and then I'll show you some of the stuff I did for arrangements. So I'll hop on over to the second drop. Zoom in here right when the kick comes in. I'll just start soloing stuff. So we start with the kick drum. That's just a sample. And that, I think, was already at the pitch that the song is. I know it says E flat major up there. I'm actually don't remember off the top of my head what key I ended up in, but I think it was in that general ballpark. So I did EQ the kick quite a bit, so here's it without. Definitely a lot better that way. And then this other kind of punchy kick with another little cut up in the upper mids, because it was just chopping your head off. So you got these two kicks. Hi-hat. Bunch of percussion. Another kick. And that's the basis of the drums, really. A bunch of percussion, most of it from Ultra Beat. Take away the kicks here so you can just hear the percussion. As you can see, that snare is actually crazy high pass. What gives it its fatness is actually the kick. It didn't need to be that fat. It was fighting with the kick, so I just high passed it like crazy, and you got that. So I add the kicks back in here. Next, we got the O's. So that's the vocal from the original song, sampled, just moved out like that, and got quite a bit of processing on it, a lot of reverb, mostly, and then a pitch shifter to move it down just a little bit to fit better with the song, and then it's sidechained as well. So here's it without all processing. Hear how much that EQ is doing. Kind of makes it sit back a lot instead of just jumping out at you. So once everything comes in, it's pretty subtle. But then the place where it's really highlighted is in the intro. You really hear it in the intro, and then as time goes on, it kind of takes a back seat to let other elements take center stage, which is what I wanted. So then we get this bass. That's also sidechained, playing the same rhythm as the synths, which you'll hear in a second. So that's just two basses. That's really low. Sidechained. We got these two plucks. Pan left and right. Another pluck. This one's got a delay on it within the plugin. So that's the basics of the plucks, these tracks. These ones adding some width and a little more body. These two really doing the bulk of the work. And these two are both started from the same patch, but they've got a couple tweaks I made to make them slightly different. So those differences are what make them wide like that, and they're both panned hard left and right. See how much that delay one adds. Then we got this pad. Those are both sidechain as well. A lot of sidechain on this song. And then this organ. So start building the track back up here. There you go. And as time went on, I added more percussion elements. We got... Take it away, put it back. Kind of lifts the song to another energy level, really. Then a couple more pads here. And then finally the guitar, which the guitar is my favorite part of this entire track, really. Makes me happy every time I hear it. So I'll show you what went into that. I'll just unsolo all of these. And the guitar was one of those things where I kind of had this track going, and I just went, it needs something. And so I just pulled up a synth and started noodling around, and I kind of stumbled upon it almost by accident. And I went, oh, that's sick. I got to use that. So here's this. These are still unsoloed. Come on. Here we go. So we've got... Just edit that out. All right, so this is a synth track. Got quite a bit of processing on it. So I'll just take all the processing off and then add it in. So we got pretty boring, just building the retro synth. Bit of EQ. And here's what really makes it work. The amp simulator. I use this trick quite a lot in Logic. You do a synth that sounds kind of like this and then run it through an amp simulator, and you actually get a pretty sick tone out of it. Sounds kind of guitarish, not completely legit, but really sick. So here's without. With. I just messed around with the settings until I got something I was happy with. Then a compressor. Side chaining it once again. Then a reverb. It's a little more vibey. So then I did an octave down, which is pretty much the same thing, except with a little more distortion and it's a little quieter. And then in the next breakdown, we've got another guitar. And this track is playing a harmony with this one. So kind of like a vocal harmony except with electric guitars. And I've always really dug that effect of harmonized electric guitars. So we got that. And then the organ's still going on in the background. I use this specific preset on the organ a lot. Grand organ. I really love that sound. So that's the bulk of the instrumentation. And then a couple other things later on in the final drop. We've got the actual vocal. This drum track right here. And then the bass. Oh, and then the SOS lead, which is... That's just from the original song. I just rendered out and brought it into here. And lastly, we got the... Where's the wobble bass? Here we go. They're both sidechained as well. These are just... those two are actually just presets on the ES2 that I use. So we got... For arrangement stuff, I'll just walk you through... This kick right here is basically the same kick as you hear throughout the whole song, except it got a pretty aggressive high-pass filter on it. So you take that off. There's all the bass comes back. Put it back on. And then... That makes all the difference when... So once you get used to that sound... So everything's building... And when the kick comes back in with all its bass, you really feel it. And you can hear right here, I'll show you in the automation. I have, on the output track, I have a channel EQ set with a low cut filter. And I have it automated to cut the lows and just listen for you, hear it. And then to go away again once the full thing comes back in. So it kind of leads you up into the next part, and you hear I did it here again. Very popular transitional effect within especially progressive house. Used a lot. Oh, and I forgot to mention this other bass. There's quite a few elements. This is sidechained, so let me turn that blip on here. That is a bass from Ultrabeat. Another bass from Ultrabeat. And then the other basses that you heard earlier. So all together we get this really fat bass. And that's bit crushed as well. Gives a little more grit. And, okay, so for building the track, you bring in the bass. This little guy, too. That comes in and out every now and again. You see how I just kind of add elements and take them away. It's not just like it goes for 8 bars and then add another element, then goes for another 8 bars and adds another element. There's a significant amount of automation going on in places like here. Go back here. This synth right here. Got an EQ on it. The low pass filter. Moving it up, 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 up. Very common technique used. And then also the cutoff on the synths. You can see other automation going on here. Both the volume and the cutoff of the synths is also automated. So the thing builds in energy. And I have synths doing this all over the place on this whole track. You see the kicks are going here too. Either way, then these are the high pass kicks, and the way they just kind of fade in, then go out for just a second, and then you got that. And so this builds. We got the plucks automating to rise in energy over the course of this. Elements slowly inserting themselves, and then the SOS lead is pretty important. What it does basically. kind of leading into a major addition of a next element. It's a very common thing to have an element that will rise, and you almost think that it's going to drop or do something crazy, and then it just adds another element instead. Kind of a denial of expectations, yet once you get used to it, it's a cool effect, so... Just leads into this little guy coming in very nicely, like here without it. Not the same. Not the same at all. And then we got the breakdown, which I used in part. I have retrosynth here. I actually have a high cut filter on the entire master bus. Nope. Just on the... Yeah, on the master bus. My bad. So I have a high cut filter on the master bus, automated to come in. And that's on everything. And then over time, it goes away. Comes back in. And so I used a lot of those techniques all the way through, and then, of course, electric guitar brings the thing to a whole nother level. Pardon my grammar. And then one more breakdown. Once again, similar technique for the breakdown. Did the output... Did I? Actually, I didn't on this output. Oh, that's right. It's the different electric guitar part this time. For something like this, the temptation is to get very, very repetitive very quickly, so you want to make sure to have enough elements that are interchangeable to where you can do crazy different stuff. So don't have your two breakdowns be the exact same. Like this breakdown is kind of leading up into the first real drop. This first real drop leads up into the second breakdown, which is different, and then leads up into the second one. The second breakdown is very, very chill compared to this one, which is kind of buildy. And then into this one, which introduces the element of the guitar. And then this one, which has the same guitar, only playing a different part. But it still all works within the song, and then leading up into the very last drop. And then which, once again, winds down to the very end. Alright, that's all for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, found it helpful for your own productions if you want to do that, or if you just found it interesting to see what goes into this kind of music. I do a new Audio Geek video every week and a new song every single week, so that's 2 videos every single week. And if you like that, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I think you'll enjoy it. And I will see you guys next week. Peace out.